Hey, what's up, Booby Tribe? Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about how to set up your tarp, especially when using it with a hammock. So I'm going to go over a few tips and tricks that I've picked up along the trail, and hopefully they help you the next time you head out. The first thing that I like to do when I get to camp is I like to set up my hammock, get everything dialed in while I don't have the tarp over the top of me. It makes it very easy to dial in everything with my sleep system before I have to start dealing with the tarp. Now I've just taken the time to set up my underquilt and my hammock, so I'm good to go there. Now it's time to set up my tarp. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at about how high I want my tarp in correlation to the ground. So here it looks like I don't need to hang this any higher than my hammock straps. So the lowest that I'm going to ever hang my tarp is at my hammock straps. That's typically where I put it 99% of the time. So as I look over here, if you were to put this underneath your hammock straps around the tree, if you're to put your tarp line underneath that, you're going to start to get overlap with your hammock line and your tarp line. So make sure to avoid that, or you'll be adjusting that in the middle of the night, or you're going to just be getting some grinding noises or different things that might freak you out. So typically the only time that you would want to raise this even a little bit higher is if you're going to have a hard time pitching it, you're on a very steep incline, some things like that. You may want to raise it a little bit higher and get you a little bit more clearance in there. For this scenario, we should be fine. It's a pretty standard setup. So I'm going to go ahead and tie those tarp lines right around where I've already tied my hammock lines. Okay, so I've come over here, I've got my hammock line right here, so I'm gonna put my tarp line just above that. With our tarps, you have an easy adjustment system here, so you can really tie any type of a knot that you want. You could tie a bow line, anything like that. To keep in good practice, I like to tie a pressic knot. And that also allows you to have additional adjustment. To tie a pressic knot, you're just gonna loop this around a few times. Then you're gonna come back here and kind of do an overhand knot. And then you're going to press that together a little bit. And you've got your pressic knot. That's all tight to the tree. I can adjust this if I want to. But in reality, I like to just adjust it from the hammock itself. So we're tied there. We'll go to the other side, tie it at the same level, just above the strap, so that we're not below it, and have these two potentially hitting each other. And then we'll stake it out. So now I've got it wrapped around both ends of the trees. What you're going to want to do is tighten this and center it on the middle of your hammock. What that means, you can see here, we've got the end of our hammock. We want this to overlap on each side, and we're going to tighten it in place so that you essentially have no sag in this before we start staking. If you start staking before you get this, you're easily going to get torsion and torque, and you're going to end up pulling out your stakes and redoing them. So first thing is tighten these two lines. We've got all those set. Now we're just going to go around the outside of this tarp and stake these out. Typically, you're going to want to find the angle that's going to keep both of them taut, or come off kind of on the same angle that this is coming off of that tarp, so that you're not going to get it, staked over here when in reality it wants to be staked this way. So be mindful of the direction you're pulling those out. It's going to help you keep tightness in this fabric, avoid it from flapping. Now our tarps are made from a sil poly fabric with a catenary cut, which means it has a slight indent on each side. That also really keeps them from flapping. Siliconized polyester does not stretch, which can also help them from flapping as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and stake these out. All right, so when you come to this section, what I like to do is I like to take the end of the line. There's no loop in here, so you gotta tie it to your stake somehow. I like to fold this over just so it's doubled back on itself. Just tie a very simple overhand knot. That's gonna give you a really easy loop that you can now stake that into. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to kind of pull it on different angles to see where it makes this tight. Right there is about where it's looking, so I want to pull and stake this on this particular line right here. The other thing to consider with this is if you do want to put trekking poles in here so that you can kind of put it in porch mode and lift the end of that tarp up so you can get in and out easier, then you're going to want to stake it with a little bit of extra rope. So you're not going to want to stake it too far out here so that you can have a little bit of extra slack to raise that up. But if you do stake it too close, then when you pull that straight up, it's going to pull that stake straight out of the ground. So you can kind of see the farther you stake this out, the more room you're going to have in there, the closer you're going to stake that out, potentially the better coverage as far as if the wind is blowing sideways or blowing rain sideways. So I'm going to kind of go in a halfway medium form right here, pick a spot right about here, and then I'm going to use a small rock to press this in. Now a rock is going to be better than pounding it. just pressing it in there. If you start pounding it and you hit another rock underneath, you can easily bend your stake. But if you use something like this to press firmly against the palm of your hand, if you hit a rock, you're gonna know, and you can just change the place without ruining those stakes. So I'm looped around the stake. I'm gonna simply come back here, quickly tighten that. All right, so your hammock is set, your tarp is set, and you're ready to enjoy a good night in the outdoors. If you have any questions on setting up your tarp, please feel free to reach out to us at support@outdoorvitals.com.